and welcome back to another episode of Tech Talks, the People and Planet podcast. Today, we have a truly remarkable guest joining us, Albert, the CEO of One Health and the creator of Voice. Albert has a really diverse career spanning from federal government, multiple startup founder, and now embarking on his fifth startup journey with One Health and Voice. So today we're going to really dive into the groundbreaking technology that is behind Voice and the applications within that veterinary tech space, and not only that, but the exciting prospects it holds for both animal and human health moving into the future as well. So Albert, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
No worries at all. No worries at all. So, yeah, I guess to kind of kick things off, I mentioned there around your career, the kind of sort of journey that you've been on from, as I mentioned, federal government work to being now on your fifth startup. It's quite a ride. So I wondered if maybe you could share some insight into that and some sort of standout experiences that's kind of sort of influenced that path that you're on at the moment within sort of tech startups.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. So you're right. I've had over 30 years, in academia, industry, and in government. And I really do favor the industry side. And I've worked with some major corporations like Siemens Medical, Philips Medical. And I've also worked with smaller ones, some startups where I wasn't necessarily a founder, but participated at the early stages, and then others where I have been the founder. And I really found that through this journey, I love the experience of having multiple things to do, and not just, a lot of times in big corporations, you get one task, go focus on that, get another task, focus on that, or maybe your scope is limited. But in earlier stage companies, it's just a joy to get your hands into so many things and to just really expand in the breadth of experiences as well as the depth of experiences. I will say too, throughout my career, I've always, I'll say, have a mentor. And so even today, one of my board members, who I have great respect for, his name is Michael Stanfield, he is a mentor to me. And he's an expert from Wall Street. He also did multiple companies himself. And he's a very successful person in that regard. And so, from my very first job, I had a mentor all the way through to today. And even though I'm an old guy, I still, appreciate having that expertise.
Sure. No, absolutely. So, look, I'm intrigued to, I guess, dig into a bit around Voice and the technology there. I know we've kind of sort of had a couple of off-screen conversations about the product. So I wondered if maybe you could give us a closer look for anybody listening into kind of how that works, and specifically around the sensors and the work that does across different animals and environments.
Yeah, absolutely. So Voice truly is a comprehensive platform technology for any species, any breed. We're initially focused on animal, and then in the future, the same technology could apply to human. And so we have the sensor platform that in a non-invasive manner can collect anatomical, functional, physiological, and contextual information from the animal. We don't have to touch it. So it can be worn, but again, it could be part of the environment. And it does that primarily through ultra-wideband radar and some other sensing technologies. And then it collects that information, sends it to the cloud, also the mobile app. And the cloud has machine learning algorithms that takes these, nearly 1 billion samples a second and processes that information. So one of the things that's very unique about it is that we can tell you what the animal was doing at the time the data was collected. So it provides context. Did the animal just get finished running? Were they sleeping? So we can tell what was going on. And then also in the cloud-based dashboard, the user, whether it's a veterinarian or maybe it's a rancher or it's a laboratory person, they can slice and dice the data a number of different ways. And then we send out alerts if the animal is hitting some thresholds they shouldn't be. So we really try to do this as a comprehensive system. It does have open APIs, so others can interface with it if they want to, and that information can be displayed. And we also can act as a gateway because we are an Internet of Things solution. We do have Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and so forth within the system. So hopefully that gives a little bit of flavor.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'd be keen to, just as a kind of, I guess, sort of a follow-up sort of question on that, just to kind of, again, for anybody that's, kind of sort of listening and would like to kind of sort of a little bit more clarity around maybe how that actually works. So,
yeah.
I guess in kind of sort of simple terms, how do you pick up those billion points of data and how does that kind of actually work in terms of the product?
Sure. So I'll start with the simplest first. So let's say the animal is wearing it. We do have an IMU in there that collects, accelerometer and gyrometer data. And so those are always on. So we can tell you about the motion of the animal, the gait of the animal, the positioning and so forth. And then the ultra-wide band radar that we use, it can be constantly on. Let's say you're in a surgery suite and you're wanting hard real-time data. Well, that data, that ultra-wideband radar can always be on. But there's a number of other ways that it might be used for post-surgery monitoring, maybe weight management, chronic disease management. And in those instances, the ultra-wideband radar fires at predetermined times, and it sends radio waves into the body. So ultra-wideband radar is actually part of the 5G spectrum. A very small part, but we send these radio waves into the body and we can totally penetrate the body. Very safe. It's very safe technology. So when those radio waves go into the body, it's somewhat analogous to ultrasound that's sending sound waves into the body. Okay. So some gets absorbed, some gets scattered, and some gets reflected. Well, those reflections, we know how to interpret. So every part of the body, muscle, fat, bone, blood, it could be an organ, the lungs, the heart, the liver, it has a unique reflected signature. And so we can interpret that signature. The other thing that's fairly unique is ultra-wideband radar is very good at motion. We can pick motion up, down to a millimeter or even less than a millimeter. And so we can see the carotid artery pulsing, the lungs expanding and contracting, the heart pumping. So you can pick up those motions. You can also pick up massive motions like the animal moving. Sure. So you can detect those types of things. And then the final area I'll say is we have 256 range bins. And those bins are almost like slices into the body. So we know, are we in air? So if the animal's not wearing it, the first several bins we just throw away because we know it's air. Sure. And then we can start to see where we're penetrating skin, muscle, fat, and so forth. Wow. So those range bins tell us where we're at in the body. So we can collect all this information plus what comes from the other sensors and sort of fuse, register and fuse that data and then come up with new learnings from that data or health and wellness data.
Wow, that's super interesting tech and truly inspiring. I guess what I'd be keen to understand is, and I know, we kind of sort of discussed before, there's that element or that vision certainly, from your perspective and the mission that you're on, to kind of, I guess, connect those dots between sort of human and animal health, kind of sort of moving forwards. How do you or how does Voice kind of sort of bring this concept to life in its tech? And have there been any, I guess, eye-opening discoveries about the relationships between animal and human health and the sort of surrounding environment?
Right. Yeah. To that point, that's why the company's called One Health or One Health Group. Right, that One Health is that intersection of animal and human and environment. And so we're starting with animal first, and it'll probably be a few years till we look at human, though we have a couple human studies already. But the same technology can be used on humans in a contact or non-contact manner. And so you can collect similar sorts of data: heart rate, heart rate variability, blood pressure, core body temperature, a number of cardiopulmonary readings, even detect masses in the body that don't belong in the body. So for instance, it could be a tumor. We couldn't tell you if it's cancerous or not, but it could be some sort of growth that doesn't belong there. And so the ultimate goal is to collect this animal data, and we already have over 1 million hours of animal data. Likewise, collect human data in a number of different settings and environments and disease states and so forth, and really fuse that data. You know, what is the new learnings that we potentially come up with? So machine learning algorithms that can help predict the onset of a particular disease state or particular situation. And the real goal is to provide that personalized medicine or personalized health and well-being for any animal or any human. You know, as far as what the big findings are going to be, I honestly don't know the answer. I mean, once we start to get this data, we'll be able to tell a lot more the interconnections. But what I would like to say is, if you think of animals, they get about 70% of our chronic diseases or more. You know, they get type 2 diabetes, heart failure, arthritis, and so forth. So those chronic diseases. And if you think of humans and the impact of animal, and so when you think of zoonotic diseases, those are diseases that started in animal, made a leap to human. About 7 out of 10 do that. And things that come into play, you know, anthrax. Everybody's probably heard of anthrax. Well, that would be one of those things that would come into to play. If you think of things like vector-borne diseases, those are things that are coming from insects, so some in the environment. So you think of things like malaria, right, would be one that would be vector-borne. So what is the learnings that we can have on the animal side, on the human side, to prevent some of those situations, to predict some of those situations, and then to take the earliest possible mitigation strategy that we can. And hopefully it's minimal. You know, maybe it's diet and exercise, maybe it's a pharmaceutical or some topical. The last course, you know, is when you need to get into surgeries or radiation or things of that nature. You know, you try to hold those things off till the end. So that's really, I'll say, the objective and what we hope to accomplish. And actually, this month we're going to have a blog post on it on our website. This month is actually recognized as One Health Month. So to those listening to this, go check out our blog post. Probably coming out in a couple of weeks.
Cool. No, interesting. Yeah, no, definitely. We'll certainly be checking that out. So obviously, you know, kind of sort of discussed around that. You know, that kind of sort of what you're looking to achieve in you know, from a kind of more of a human health perspective, and that kind of encompassing you know, One Health kind of sort of title. How do you actually kind of sort of make that transition then from kind of animal to human testing and you know, ultimately moving into that space? You know, what are the kind of sort of steps that you might have to take, you know, to kind of sort of get from one to the other?
Yeah, absolutely. It's primarily regulatory and testing. So the technology doesn't change. It's the exact same platform tech, and it works again with human or any animal that you can think of. The real transition is going to be make sure that we get FDA clearance. We would be what's called a 510K. We don't need what's PMA, which means a lot more research, and it's really no comparison. Whereas a 510K, there are things we can compare to, such as ultrasound. And then, so it's really about going down that path. It's also about conducting a number of clinical studies. So for every one of those things I was mentioning, like blood pressure or core body temperature, we have to make sure that we run that through independent clinical studies that are statistically significant sample sizes to show that we're as good or better than the current gold standard. And so it's really time and money and effort to make that happen. And that's why we think it's going to be out in year 4 or year 5 that we look to make that transition, because we want to make sure we have a really solid foundation with the animal data and the solution. and then move to the human side.
Understood. Understood. So look, I mean, I guess sort of last question from my side. I wondered if maybe you could just share a bit about how I guess how Voice kind of approaches the market, especially regarding kind of strategic partnerships and how they kind of sort of align with the broader goals and vision of the company as well.
Right. Yeah. So for us, we're primarily going to be an innovation engine, mostly scientists and technologists. We will have a business development function and small sales force that will focus on niche sort of opportunities. But we're primarily going to work through strategic partners or strategic distributors to take this solution to market. So for instance, I can't mention the name at this point just because we haven't gotten permission to do the press, but the very last week of December, we just closed a strategic distribution agreement with a Japanese pharmaceutical and medical device company to have exclusive distribution rights of our technology in Japan. And so we have a number of others that we're talking to in different areas: laboratory animals, service animals, cattle, for instance, production animals. And so we'll really work through those partners to bring this solution to market. You'll also be able to have access to the solution through our website and e-commerce engine, for instance. And then we'll be at a number of the key conferences where veterinarians can come by and look at the technology and see how it might apply. So that's really our approach. It allows us to move very rapidly and to keep focused on what we do best, which is really the science and the technology.
Yeah. Sure. Excellent. Well, Albert, thank you so much for your insight into the amazing innovations that you and the team are really driving over there at the moment. It's clear that this intersection of technology and healthcare holds some real incredible promise. So I wish you all the best of luck on the continued journey that you're going to go on, and I'm sure it'll be amazing. So again, thank you so much for your time. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity.
No worries. And everyone listening, please check out One Health's website and what they're doing. It really is incredible. And again, please don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned for more thought-provoking discussions on Tech Talks, the People and Planet podcast. As always, stay curious and keep innovating. Until next time.
All the best.